Hey, welcome everybody. We are live right now. Welcome to Keto Chat Live. Hey, that's appropriate. We're live and the show is called Keto Chat Live. All right. Hey, all you out there listening, are you confused about intermittent fasting, when you should stop eating, when you're allowed to start eating each day, how much water you should drink, whether you're having a craving or you're really hungry? Do you struggle to stay on keto maybe because you just feel too hungry all the time? Well, guess what? Today's episode is for you. So stick around. Let's learn all about it. Let's talk about this. So today, this episode, I'm calling it Drawing Lines in the Sand, and it was inspired by one of my clients' questions yesterday. So she said something to me. She said, I don't feel hungry. So I worry I'm not doing this right. And so I was like, oh my gosh, girl, I got you. We got to talk about this. So welcome everyone to Keto Chat Live. I am your host, Carole Freeman. I have a master's degree in nutrition and clinical health psychology. I'm also a board certified keto nutrition specialist. I also have a certification in clinical hypnotherapy. And also, hey, I do the keto diet. I've done it. My journey is a long story, and basically recovered from a horrible car accident after being disabled for about 1.5 years with a brain injury, crush injuries to my legs, and developed pretty severe metabolic dysregulation in health, and lost about 60 pounds in the first 6 months of doing it myself, and have stuck with it for over 6.5 years now. So here I am sharing with you everything on this podcast here. So, let's get the medical disclaimer out of the way. Medical disclaimer: this show is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice nor intended to diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure any condition. If you have questions or concerns related to your specific medical condition, please contact somebody who is going to take care of you the right way, your qualified medical functional medicine professional. And seriously, please contact your professional healthcare professional. I said that twice. Personal healthcare professional, and make sure they're professional as well. All right. I got a quiz for all of you right now, listening, watching. What time do you typically eat your first meal of the day? Just give me a number in the chat. Join me in the comments. It's an interactive show. And so join me. Let me know you're joining from. Join me by commenting. That's how I know you're here. Give me a number in the chat. What is the time of day that you allow yourself to have your first meal? So glad you're here today. How's it going, everybody? I've had a recent check-in from somebody in the comments. They said they were listening in Indonesia. So we've got listeners, viewers in all over the U.S. We typically have people in the U.S. that join us live because time zone works out best for them. But also after the show, we'll have people comment in Poland and Greece and Indonesia and all over the world. So it's really great. Czech Republic, I think we had too. So welcome. Please comment. Let me know you're joining from. I can see that we've got people here watching live. So please join the show by commenting where you're joining from. Personal check-in here, everyone. I am flying solo today. I'm really disappointed. I had somebody scheduled as a co-host. I'm not going to name a name, but they just kind of ghosted me today. So they didn't show up. So I pivoted and came up with a different topic than what we'd planned to talk about, but something really important. And it was inspired again by a discussion on a coaching call with a client yesterday. So just what am I up to? Did you ask? Oh, thanks for asking. I'm in the midst of revising my core course, and I'm really excited about this because a lot of things have been updated and changed in the last 6 years that I've been doing this work. And basically I'm going to take everything that I've learned in working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably close to 1,000 women now on a keto journey. I'm going to take everything I've ever learned and how to teach them, and I'm going to roll that into brand new revised version of my core program that I work with my ladies on. And really cool thing though is that anyone who enrolls to work with me between now and December 31st, 2021, I'm going to give you both versions of the program. So that way you don't have to feel like you need to wait till the new one's out. You can get started with some amazing help and support and a great program now. And then you can also get the new stuff coming out then as well. But you got to tell me you heard it on the podcast. You got to tell me you heard it so that you can get both those versions of it too. So Valerie's here from Virginia. How's it going out there, Valerie? Welcome. So glad you're here. All right. And if anyone wants to ever text me, send a little note, a message. I've got a specific text line. You can text me personally at 602-704-5309. I love the end of this. I did not pick this, but it goes with that Jenny number here. So, as a lady who does her eyebrows, I get really annoyed. I've got the stencils even, and they still don't come out even. I don't know. It's a little distracting to me. I'm sure nobody noticed until I said anything, or maybe you did. And now I'm going to keep looking at them going like, how is it even with a stencil, like a literal stencil stamp, and I can't get them even? I don't know. All right. Well, so glad you're here watching, listening. My question I had for everybody to start this out was, what time of the day do you typically have your first meal? Give me a number in the chat there. And again, just a reminder, this is an interactive show, so please join me. I'm just sitting here alone with my cats, and they're sleeping somewhere right now. So don't make me feel alone. I'm here for you. So, all right. So up in our news segment today, I found that I'm actually, let's just do a little screen share. I'm going to share it up. Actually, for those of you not watching on video, or actually those of you that want to look as well, I'm going to post it in the comments here. A link to this new device. And for those of you watching live, I'll actually screen share this new product. So I found that Intuity, I think that's the company's name, Intuity, is launching an all-in-one push-button glucose monitor. So if you don't know why this is kind of cool, typically for glucose monitoring, you have to poke your finger, get some juicy blood out. You've got to take a strip and stick it in the meter, and then you stick your finger on the little strip, and it's about a 3-step process to be able to do that. So this meter apparently is all in one. So you just push your finger down on the button, and it stabs you at the same time, and then it takes your blood and gives you a reading. And so that's a pretty cool thing. I think it should save a lot of money as well. And welcome everybody who's watching. Okay, Valerie's saying that her first meal is about 10 a.m. So that was my question for people watching, is what time do you typically have your first meal of the day? All right, so this monitor, so they're saying because everybody's going to be like, where can I find it? So according to Intuity, and according to this article that's talking about Intuity, the Pogo is what they're calling this cute little thing, is available for purchase online with 50 tests costing $32. So I don't know if that means the whole thing is disposable then. That might be what that means. Oh yeah, if I read on, I think I can figure things out. So 50 tests costing $32. So it sounds like it's a disposable meter. And they also have a reusable meter for $68 at Walgreens and CVS. Which somehow, I don't know what the refills cost, right? So if it's reusable, there has to be something in there that's going to be refillable. So let me know if you see this in any of your Walgreens or CVS stores around you. I've got a couple of those around me. I haven't gone to look yet, but just thought that was a cool little new little toy that's coming on the market. Will be cool too if it could do, you probably to do ketones, you're going to have a separate one, but I don't know if there's much demand for that one as there is for just the blood sugar testing. So, all right, Kai is here, and he's at 6 a.m. Breakfast before going to work. Thanks for joining in the discussion, Kai. Glad you're here. All right, so that's my my little news segment there for you. But today the topic I want to talk about, which again, I had to pivot. I'm upset my co-host didn't show up today, but you know what? I have so much stuff to talk about keto. I could do a show every day for the rest of my life and not run out of stuff to teach you all. So I work with my clients. I have a couple of coaching calls every week. And so always really good discussion. So for the call, actually, it wasn't even, I keep saying yesterday, but it was this morning. The call this morning, I had somebody's been with me about 3 weeks. Somebody else has been with me about 5 weeks. And somebody else has been with me for 3.5 years. And every one of them is still learning and remembering things that they're supposed to remember on these calls. So this was actually a question from this morning discussion we got into where one of my clients said, I don't feel hungry, so I worry that I'm not doing it right. Right. So it made me realize that, this is something that comes up all the time, is that the ladies I'm working with have been dieting for decades, and they're used to feeling a certain form of miserableness when they're following some kind of a weight loss diet. They're used to feeling really hungry all the time. They're used to having, to just, if you feel hungry, just tolerate it because you're going to lose weight and then you can get off of it eventually so you don't have to suffer forever. They're used to feeling headaches and just kind of miserable and irritable and deprived and just never really feeling satisfied. And so this was her with all her diet experience in the past, was like, I'm afraid I'm not doing this right because I don't feel hungry. And I'm reminded frequently of how different my approach is and why it's so different than every other diet out there. But also why it's so different than most keto approaches out there too. So, and the reason that I have such a different approach is that I've got degrees in nutrition and psychology. And also, in addition to the degrees, I've studied the psychology of appetite, cravings, and behavior modification even longer than I did to get my degrees. And I'm still learning about all of this ongoing. And so I bring that to my work. So when I started keto, I was not a good dieter. I was not somebody who could follow a diet plan that was restricted, feeling really hungry a lot. And so I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to stick with it. But I had such horrible health problems. I was bedridden. I couldn't work very much. So bedridden the first 3 months. But after that, when I could get out of bed, I couldn't walk very much. My legs would swell so bad. Even when I was sitting, I had to have them elevated because the pain was so bad. And I was a mess. So I was so desperate to start keto to try to heal my brain from this car accident that I was in. I was so desperate to make it work because knowing that I was such a bad dieter in the past, I couldn't stick with anything. I studied for a long time what keto was, and then I applied everything that I'd ever studied, everything I knew to be true about what causes cravings, what causes, excessive appetite, and I applied that to my own approach. And so that's why I was able to lose 60 pounds the first 6 months, why I've been able to sustain keto as a lifestyle over the last 6.5 years. One of my clients this morning was like, I saw your video where you lost, your weight loss the first year that you did keto, and you lost 18.5 pounds your first month. And I said, I did. I started at 220 pounds. So, your results are going to vary. But part of why I was so successful over that time was that I applied not only how to do keto, but all of the psychology side of this, so how to make it so you don't have to be hungry, craving all the time, and how you can support long-term behavior change. So that's what I bring to my clients, and that's influences what I share on these podcast episodes too. So why is this so different? What is so different about what I teach than just any other diet or any other keto approach, right? So I like to use the deer analogy. Okay, so imagine a sweet, innocent deer out in the wild, or maybe a herd of deer. Are they herds or packs? I don't know how they live. Oh wait, I got to make sure I'm looking at the comments here. So Valerie says, thanks for the info on the Pogo device. What would you tell a person new to keto is the benefits of having blood sugar test kit on hand? Well, I don't think that, well, it totally depends, Valerie. So for example, if somebody has really high blood sugar, and they want to see how quickly it comes down, somebody who's pre-diabetic, maybe who's diabetic. But again, if you're diabetic, you need to be working with a healthcare professional. So if you have any diagnosed illness, disease, you need to be working with a healthcare professional before you try to do keto on your own. So I'm not saying this is what somebody should do that has diabetes on their own. But for example, if you have the right care team and you were starting keto as a lifestyle and you had the right supervision, the right support, then that person could use a blood glucose meter to monitor their blood sugar as it goes down. And also that's going to be influenced on, how they talk with their doctor about how they should change their medication. And, for the average person who's normal, healthy blood sugars, It might be just a curious thing to notice. How they're very stable. But having not checked before, I think it would be more interesting, actually, somebody who's not following keto to do blood sugar testing before and after meals and really have an eye-opening experience of how much different foods affect you. So Valerie, I think blood sugar testing for somebody for most of keto is not going to be very useful. It would be really eye-opening for somebody who's not on keto and having reasons to say, oh, wow, it looks like these foods wreak havoc on my blood sugar. Maybe I should consider doing a low carb or keto approach. For somebody who's been on keto a long time and they are maybe experimenting with different foods to see which foods maybe affect their blood sugar. People who are sustaining their weight loss, have really healthy lab markers and things like that, they may want to do a little bit of carb testing. And so in Rob Wolf's book, Wired to Eat, he has a great carb test protocol in there about how to use a blood glucose meter for that. For some people, I found that, there may be some surprises if there's, it just depends on the data nerds. If somebody's a data nerd and they just want to have more information, there's a certain time where later on I have my clients maybe try some sweeteners or things like that. But I've also found some recent information. One of the news articles I shared on a previous podcast episode was about how some of the sweeteners cause blood sugar spikes when they shouldn't. And these are non-sugar sweeteners, non-caloric sweeteners. So if you're, in love with your morning coffee sweetener or some other soda or something like that and kind of checking how it affects your blood sugar, those might be really big surprises. Also, we found that a lot of so-called keto products on the market will cause blood sugar issues as well too. So so I would more recommend for somebody not on keto, somebody who's at their goal weight and at their goal health markers, and then maybe they want to do some carb testing. That's where a blood sugar device like that by itself would be something that would be helpful. So, all right. So back to the deer analogy. So today's topic again is drawing lines in the sand. One of my clients again this morning said, I just don't feel hungry. I must be doing something wrong because she's comparing it to every diet she'd ever been on. And so I use the analogy for a little deer, pack of deer, herd of deer, or whatever out in the wild. And why do humans need other humans to tell them what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, what kind of foods to eat? Deer don't need nutritionists, right? Deer walk around the woods. They eat, grass, leaves. They eat it, they sample it, they chew this a little bit, they decide if it tastes good or not. If it doesn't taste good, they go off and eat something else. They eat the right amount, right? Deer are pretty lean. I mean, in the winter, they maybe put on a little bit more weight, but they're fairly lean. I grew up in Oregon where a lot of people hunted deer. I've eaten a lot of deer meat, venison in my life, and it's very, very lean meat. It's not fatty. And so deer are able to maintain a healthy body weight with nobody telling them you should do intermittent fasting, you should stop eating by 6 p.m, you should skip breakfast, Miss Deer, and you need to also eat 17 green leaves a day, you need to eat 2 cups of grass greens, and you need to eat 7 cups of clover a day. No, deer have an innate sense of how much to eat, what kinds of things to eat to meet their nutrient needs. Deer also aren't making green smoothies of their leaves and grass and trying to get more greens into their body. They don't need to take vitamin supplements to get their nutrient needs met. They have an innate wisdom of how much to eat, when to eat, right? It's called hunger. It's called their appetite. Their hunger tells them when to eat. Their appetite tells them how much to eat. Same thing with thirst, right? How does a deer know how much water to drink in a day? Has anybody's ever heard the nonsense of, well, if you wait to drink, you're already 30% dehydrated? Okay, if that's the case, why aren't deer falling over dehydrated in the wild? Do you think they have like their gallon jug of creek water that they drink every day and they're trying to chug it down? Hey, Barry, how's it going? Oh, yeah, how's that 7 gallons of water you're drinking a day? Deer are pretty big, by the way. 7 gallons of water. Well, I've got to 2 a day. I'm doing pretty good. My personal trainer at the gym told me I need to drink my body weight in ounces of water a day. so I got to go back to the creek and get some more water. No, it's just nonsense. Why do humans need somebody else telling them how many ounces of water to drink and how much food to eat, how much and when to eat and when not to eat? Why do we need that? First of all, we don't with water, okay? So we have an innate system that tells us when to drink water and when not. So listen to that. Stop drinking some number of ounces somebody told you to drink. That's wrong. It's a lie. Whole other episode, but don't listen to the nonsense about how many ounces. Drink when thirsty. Don't drink if you're not thirsty. Now, if you're used to drinking soda and sweet drinks, your thirst might be off, because a lot of people like that will say, oh, I just don't like drinking plain water. Well, that's because you're used to it being sickeningly sweet. So wean yourself off the sweet, but also, you're not gonna, if you were in a desert island, your body would keep you hydrated. You're not going to go unthirsty if you forgot to drink water all day long. You're going to get your water needs met. Okay, so the same thing. Okay, so water, we have an innate system. It tells us when to drink, not to drink. We've got that. Oh, but what about our hunger and appetite? What about that? Why is it that deer can have a normal, healthy body weight and all the other wild animals? Okay, every other wild animal out there has the same thing. What is the difference between humans and wild animals? Well, wild animals, there's limited food. It's the food that's always been there for them. They don't have little deer farms where they've raised their own crops to be super high in carbohydrates and starches and sugars. And, they're just eating the food that's available in the wild. They haven't manipulated their food supply at all, unlike humans. So we started, I don't know how long, I guess it started when we started growing grains, probably about 10,000 years ago. Out of the 200,000 years that humans have been on this planet, about 10,000 years ago is when we started to tweak with our food supply and things started to go haywire. And so we live now in a world where the food is a mismatch for our internal appetite and hunger regulatory systems. We're a mismatch right now. So think about if you could peel back all food technology, all food manufacturing, go back to the caveman times where all we could eat was just what was available in the wild. And we weren't growing anything. We weren't farming it. It was just what was available in the wild. Can you imagine that anyone would have any problems with being overweight or health problems related to diet? Probably not. And so challenges came when we started to manipulate our food supply, and fast forward to modern day, and we've made a mess of our food supply. We've made a mess of it. We've created all of these types of foods that are what's called highly palatable, which means that when we eat it, we want to eat more, and we will eat more than we need. So a highly palatable food combination is the concept I've learned from Dr. Stephan Guyenet from Seattle, Washington. And so it's a combination of foods. Whenever there's something sweet and fat together in a food, it bypasses our normal appetite regulation. It's something that should be in nature that's very rare. It exists in very few foods. So things like mother's milk, which we're designed to consume as much of that as we possibly can so that we can grow fast. Cow's milk as well is one of those in the whole food form of it. Coconut too, if you eat the whole thing, the carbs, and there's a lot of sweet there. And nuts. Once you crack them open, they're high in carbs and fat. And so those are the things that they were rare and sparse, right? Like we have human milk the first, maybe year of our life or so, just give or take. And those other things are really hard and to get to and really rare, right? Nuts in the wild, hard to get to, only available certain time of the year, really hard to crack open. And then when they're not salted and toasted and roasted and covered in all kinds of other stuff, they taste good, but we still don't want to consume them in buckets. And so, let's see, let me go back to my notes here and see what, so if we could eliminate all of these highly processed, highly refined, highly palatable food combinations, we would have no problems with weight regulation. And I would be out of a job. I wouldn't have to guide anyone on how to eat in a way that actually is in alignment with our human biology. So that, in summary, that's what's going on, is that this is why we're we're having overweight problems. This is why people struggle with staying on track with keto or any healthy lifestyle change, diet change, is that our body is designed to seek out foods that are high reward, high in sugar, high in that combination of fat and sugar, and consume as much as possible. And also, our body is designed to try to gain as much weight as we possibly can. Now, the reason that we're designed like that is that for most of human existence, food was really scarce and rare, right? So you can imagine why our body was made that way. It's only been a short little period of time in all of human existence that now we have an abundance of food, and we figured out how to make it more tasty, more palatable, higher quantities, and it's everywhere. So we have to design strategies. We have to draw lines in the sand. So that's the name of my episode here today, drawing lines in the sand. There's another concept with this that's called bright line eating. But I bright line eating is a little bit different than what I teach, but also it overlaps, right? So I teach my clients to draw some lines in the sand that allow them to eat to satiety, not be hungry, except when you are hungry, you get to eat, and then you get to eat to satiety, and you could lose weight without being hungry all the time. So we're drawing lines in the sand that give us eating parameters, give us some eating boundaries that we can eat in a way that we feel nourished, our appetite is satisfied, we don't have cravings, and we can follow our hunger and appetite. So let's talk a little bit more about what those are. So but first let me mention, okay, so let's see, I'm checking in the comments here. Valerie's saying, if only the food industry was as excited to nourish, repair, and heal us as they seemingly are to damage it. The hyper-palatable foods are so addictive. Yes. Well, okay, so what is the food industry's goal, Valerie? Food industry, what is their goal? Their goal is to make money. Do they make money if we eat less? Because the truth is that when you're eating in a way that's in alignment with nourishing your body and eating foods that aren't highly palatable, we eat less. So food manufacturers have zero interest in creating foods that make us feel more full and satisfied. They have all the interest in the world in creating foods that make us crave them, that make us overeat them, that make us obsess with them, right? So instead of feeling disempowered and deprived that you can't eat these foods, get angry about what's been done, what's manipulated all of us into being overweight and to crave these foods and feel powerless. Yes, money, absolutely. Food manufacturers don't have any interest in keeping us healthy. Their number one goal is to make as much money as possible, and the way that they do that is to get us to eat more and more and more and more. So again, they have no incentive. So anytime they make a food that's actually very nourishing and satisfying and it doesn't make you crave it, guess what? When they compare sales, right? So the junk food sells really high and it's got a lot of repeat customers. So they keep making more of that. This healthy balanced meal, whatever you want to call it, like a meal that you made for, frozen dinner or whatever like that, that's full of nutrients and, 400 calories or something like that, that won't sell very much, because how many of those can people eat a day? 1, 2, or 3, and that's it. How many junk foods can people eat a day? In fact, the more junk food they eat, the more they want to eat, and the more they do eat. So they're going to cut out this line. They're going to try it for a while because they're like, well, let's see if we can make some money off of this. They make a little money, but it doesn't get the repeat sales, right? It's always going to be a flatline sales. And so they're going to discontinue that line and keep making the junk food. So the only way we can vote with our dollars, right? The way that we change this, I mean, frankly, it's not going to change in our lifetimes, but we can vote with our dollars, right? What do you spend your money on? And I also implore you all, don't get your kids addicted to this early on, because you all know that it's really hard as an adult to get off something that somebody's been giving you your whole life. So I encourage you all to create really healthy eaters. Teach your kids what's going on. Teach your kids how the food manufacturers manipulate us into being addicted to these foods and craving them. It's really empowering. If kids know the truth, they're going to make some good decisions for themselves as well. So there's some really great books on these topics if anybody's curious more and wants to get really irate and make some changes for the good for yourselves. One of them is called the Doritos Effect. Really eye-opening into the food industry and how they manipulate everything and try to make it as like this. They have scientists that actually will do 5 different variations of one food or 100, and they'll see which one makes people eat the most of it. To figure out the right amount of sugar and sweetener to put into sodas. They have tried all hundreds of variations of how much sweetness is in there, and then they find the one that's the bliss point. Yes, right? That makes people go, that's delicious. I want to keep drinking more. Is anybody getting angry yet? You're not missing out. You're not deprived by not eating these addictive foods that have been used to manipulate you into eating more. So this is why deer don't need nutritionists, because there aren't any deer Doritos and deer cinnamon rolls and deer garbage foods, right? They're just deer eat food that's always been available, and matches the way that their body is designed to tell them when they're hungry and not. And so a lot of my ladies I'm working with have dieted most of their adult lives, and some of them even since they were like 6 or 7 years old. And we've got to undo a lot of the diet mentality, right? Because every other diet out there is about, well, you just got to eat less and exercise more, and they don't change the type of foods that they're eating. Well, all foods fit, just in moderation, right? How many of you have tried that kind of eating style and all you feel is hungry all the time? You still feel deprived. You feel really deprived because you're so hungry. And, and then also you condition yourself that like, well, I just need to eat as little as possible, and especially protein. Women should eat little dainty portions. And so the ladies I'm working with really struggle with actually eating enough at each meal because they're used to eating just a tiny little bit. And as soon as they're not starving anymore, then they try to stop eating. But they end up hungrier at the end of the day, and then they overeat at the end of the day because they're so used to trying to eat so little. The ladies I'm working with also, they've been fed this lie that they should buy shakes and protein bars to be on a diet. Now, protein bars should be in quotes because they're not protein bars. They're carb bars. They're sugar bars. They're basically candy bars that are put a diet label on it, right? And shakes as well. So our natural hunger, our innate hunger and appetite actually gets activated by eating real whole foods in their whole form. When we're eating things like bars and shakes and things like that, they're so processed, so manipulated, they actually bypass the satiety hormones in our body. They don't activate the hormones that tell us we've actually eaten real food. And so they encourage us to eat more. So we fool ourselves because it tastes like a candy bar. So then we've been sold that like all these diet programs, well, you buy all these shakes and protein bars and that's how you lose weight. If that worked, nobody would be coming to work with me. Protein bars and again, let's just call them diet candy bars and diet milkshakes. They've never helped anybody sustain weight loss. They actually just are a trick to get you to buy some more stuff, right? I remember, in my 20s trying to figure out how to lose weight, one of the, for early times. And that was when Slim Fast was really, really popular. And I remember going and buying some. I'm like, well, I saw the commercials. It must work. And, you're supposed to drink one of those for breakfast, one for lunch, and eat a sensible dinner. What garbage marketing is that? Okay, I remember drinking my first one and I thought, okay, that just tastes like a glass of chocolate milk. Now what do I eat? Like, what's for meal? There was no satiety in it whatsoever. I don't know how anybody could ever just have that and nothing else. And let alone if you made it through 2 of those in a day and then you're trying to eat a sensible dinner. Oh my gosh, hats off to all the ladies out there that have ever survived diets like that, right? And so all the ladies I'm working with, that's what they're used to, is being starving all day long, eating crazy non-food things, being on a diet that you can't wait until you can get off so you can go back to eating regular food again. And also, diet mentality is that we can't trust our appetite. My appetite is what got me fat in the first place. And so therefore I should ignore my appetite. If I'm hungry, must mean I'm burning fat. Just keep going through it. Also, I can't trust my thirst. How many of you have heard the lie that, if you're thirsty, you're already 30% dehydrated? Can you imagine if we use that same illogical statement with food? Well, if you wait till you're hungry, you're already 30% behind on calories. Nobody tells you need to eat to avoid being hungry. What would happen if you always ate before you were hungry? Well, guess what? You gain weight. Same thing happens if you're drinking water when you're not thirsty, is you're trying to put too much water in your body. All right. And also the more recent trend as well drives me nuts, which is this intermittent fasting thing. So everybody's trying to figure out the perfect number of hours to eat and restrict their eating window and how that's going to help them lose weight. Is it working? Is it working? Ladies I talk to every week that come to work with me are, I'm trying intermittent fasting, I'm trying this and I'm trying that, and I'm not losing weight. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But guess what? Like, making some magical amount of times that you stop eating and start eating does not make you actually eat less total. You can still eat a lot of food in a shorter period of time. And also it discounts your actual real appetite. So one of my ladies she said, I'm waking up really, really hungry, but I'm trying to do intermittent fasting. So I'm trying not to eat till the afternoon, but I'm just so hungry in the morning. And I said, you should eat if your body's hungry within the parameters I'm teaching you. You should definitely eat. Honor that, right? Can you imagine if those poor deer out in the wild, that they're like, wake up hungry in the morning and they're like, oh, nope, I got to do my intermittent fasting window. I guess I'm going to go run around the lake a few times and not eat. Of course, a deer gets to eat when it's hungry, right? So the parameters of what I'm teaching my clients, if you stick within those parameters, when you're hungry, you should eat. And then you'll be satisfied. You'll stop eating when you've had enough. And then you can wait to eat again until you're hungry again. So Valerie's saying, no protein bars for me anymore. My kids laugh that I carry dried beef sticks and jerky with me just in case if we go out for errands. Let's call it a pocket meat. Oh, I love it. That's so great. Yeah, let's change the name of protein bars. Are such a lie. There's so many marketing lies that we've been sold over this time. And I can't tell you how many of my ladies that after they've been working with me for a while and they're like, well, what kind of protein bars can I have? And they're used to just that, right? Because we're conditioned that like typical protein bars are so high in sugar, it really is just a candy bar that's relabeled as a protein bar. So then suddenly it's healthy, right? But I love it. Pocket meat. Yes, let's just get rid of the term. Protein bars are a lie. They're not real. The only real protein bars, are pocket meat. So awesome. Love it. Valerie's been one of our past podcast co-hosts too. So go back and listen to her episode. She's one of our great audience members every week. Love it. Those rest of you too. Tell me where you're joining from. Let me know you're here. The show's interactive, so I love seeing your comments as we go along. So if you're joining us, I can see that people are watching live, but I can't see who they are until they comment. So give me a comment so I know I'm here. You're here. All right. So why is my approach so different? I think I've been hinting at that or talking about that along the way here, but Kai, I love that. Okay, so Kai says the Quest bars are more like a pocket laxative. That is so true. Oh my gosh. Pocket cravings bar is what those are too. So, oh yeah. There are definitely plenty of those out there that have like the sugar alcohols and things in there for sure that are pocket laxatives. Oh, Kai, that's funny. I love it. All right. So what makes my approach so different? Again, I said this a little bit ago, but if you're just joining, my approach, I help my clients draw a line in the sand, and and this is actually part of what makes keto so effective in general compared to a lot of other eating approaches, is that we're removing all of those processed, refined foods that have that highly palatable combo. Now, the problem is that we're having all these keto foods, keto washing foods. Penny, my peer support coach, uses that term, keto washed. So they slap the word keto on it. They're trying to recreate all the former high carb versions in a keto version, but they're just as processed. They're just as tasty. We overeat them just as much as we will the regular version of it. So they're really not doing us any favors. But if you just old school keto, like I teach my clients, like real whole foods, none of that processed packaged stuff that's lying to you. But if you're eating real whole foods, keto ones, then we're eliminating all of these foods that trigger the highly palatable response that turn on cravings. We're eating more like deer do, where it's foods that are just naturally, before we started to hybridize them and selectively breed them to be much higher in sugar and carbs and low in nutrients. So Robin's asking, how many avocados can you have in a day? I don't know. I'll do a plug back. So the rules that I have my clients follow to start with are what I covered in episodes 1 through 10 of my podcast. So today is episode 27. So if you go back anywhere you find podcasts, you're going to find all the episodes, but also you can go to my website, ketocarole.com. And let's see. Oh, I could put that on here too. ketocarole.com is a banner. And if you look at there's a section of my menu that says free stuff. And if you go down to the podcast there, that's where you're going to find all the back episodes too. So you can go all the way back and listen to episodes 1 through 3. That's where I go through all the 10 rules that I have my clients start with to get really great results. And that all of those 10 rules are drawing the lines in the sand to get rid of the things that make us overeat. So keto in general, keeping carbs really low. So Robin, one of the rules I have my clients start with is less than 20 grams of carbs, and we're doing 20 total carbs. Another one of the rules is you've got to track, weigh, and measure everything that you eat. So very quick, and you have to eat a certain amount of protein. And so very quickly, if you're tracking, weighing, and measuring, and you're going to find out how many carbohydrates are in avocado, right? So one whole avocado, total carbs is about 13 carbs. And so if your total carbs are 20 or less per day, you might not even be eating a whole avocado per day. So that's just going to depend from person to person and where they're at on their journey, where they're at in their healing. So later on, for some of my clients, depending on, are they at the goal weight? Are they at their goal health markers? They may be able to have a couple of avocados a day. So it just depends on where they're at on their journey, how that fits. So, So the things that make my approach different, so effective, again, we're drawing that line in the sand, helping people find foods that are nourishing, satisfying, and we can actually trust our appetite. And so it removes craving cues. So we're doing things in a very strategic way that makes it so you don't have cravings. That was my lady this morning that actually asked, she says, I'm just not hungry. I'm afraid I'm doing it wrong. The other observation she had was that she goes, it's just weird that I don't have any cravings for carbs or sugar. And she's about 5 weeks into working with me. And that's pretty standard when people follow that protocol, to a T. They're free of cravings for sugar and carbs. They get to follow their appetite. They eat when they're hungry. They don't eat when they're not. And they're, losing weight easily without all the past pain and discomfort of traditional diets. So we're removing craving cues. We're removing highly palatable food combos. So one of the things my clients do is take a break from all sweeteners of every kind. Then you cannot get the sweet and fat together if you don't have the sweet part at all. Lots and lots of reasons why we cut out the sweeteners, but that's one of those. So when you don't have a highly palatable combo, again, which is sweet and fat together, fat by itself, you will not overeat it unless you're trying to drink it. That's a whole other thing. But if you just have fat in its form that it comes in nature with no sweetness added to it, you will not overeat it. It just won't happen. And we've also just, keto in general is removing most of the foods that have been hybridized on farms to be really high in sugar and low in nutrients. So for example, most commercially available fruit that we have now, even some of the vegetables and squashes and things like that have been bred to be like really, really high in sugar. All of those things that we're cutting out on keto, they're not high in nutrients. They're actually really high in sugar and low in nutrients. So this is also part of what helps us feel full and satisfied, is that every food we're eating is full of nutrients, and our body recognizes that. Just like the deer eating the different things in the wild, the deer's taste buds know what to eat to get enough vitamins and minerals. Ours will as well if we're eating the right kinds of foods. So we have to kind of draw that line around all the foods that have been brought in the last couple hundred years, and just go back to a time when we were like deer and just could eat what was naturally available to us. And the other thing to know too, and why my approach really works well too, is that we actually have protein appetite and a fat appetite. And part of why people feel so hungry on a low calorie, low fat diet is they're not getting that fat satiety. And we actually have hormones and regulatory mechanisms in our body that when we're eating whole fat, that, as it exists in nature, not drinking cups of fat, but if we're eating real fat that comes in food, our body senses that. We have 4 vitamins that are only available to us in fat foods: vitamin A, D, E, and K. Those are fat soluble vitamins. So we need to get them from fat in our diet. And in order to digest and absorb them, we also have to eat them with fat as well. So our body can recognize when we haven't had enough fat. And that's part of why, if you've gone on any low calorie, low fat diet in the past, no matter how much protein and vegetables you eat, you still feel this gnawing hunger in you. Also, we have a protein appetite too. So if you're eating too low of protein, your body's going to be getting the signal that there's not enough nutrients available in the environment in general. So if you're under eating protein as well, you'll kind of also have this kind of gnawingness about you. Eventually, you're going to start to notice that your energy slows down, your metabolism slows down, you stop losing weight, your hair starts falling out. So we need both adequate protein and fat. And that's part of what my approach gives my clients, is they're getting adequate protein, adequate fat. They get satiety like they never have before. They can trust and listen to their hunger. So when they're hungry, eat. They'll feel satisfied. You can stop eating and not eat again until your next meal when you're hungry again. We're not doing any snacks. Snacking is always either means you didn't eat enough at your meal before, or it's a habit, or you're just craving these carby things too. And we're eliminating all these foods that stimulate excessive appetite. The highly palatable combo that just makes us never want to stop eating something. So I also want to give it a little bonus tip in here too about how to recognize the difference between a craving and true hunger, because sometimes my ladies have a really hard time with that, because most of their lives they've been trying to ignore their hunger, because the only way you can lose weight is just to be hungry, so I better learn to ignore it. So they have a really hard time sometimes recognizing, how do I know if it's a craving or if it's real hunger or not? So one of the tests that I give them is just imagine, so you're right now and you're like, am I hungry or am I just craving something? So first of all, ask yourself, what would you eat right now? What sounds good to you to eat? If you can imagine eating a well-formulated keto meal, and for my clients, that's a portion of protein, a small serving of veggies that keeps their carbs low, and then some kind of an added fat to that meal that tastes good that goes with that. If they can imagine eating that meal, you're hungry. Go ahead and eat that meal. If you've just finished a meal and you still feel hungry, ask yourself that same thing. Can I imagine eating more of what I just ate? That's also hunger. That means you didn't eat enough at that meal. Again, a lot of times women struggle with, they're used to being on a diet and eating very dainty little portions, and so they just undereat at a meal. So if you're still hungry at the end of the meal, you want to stop eating at the end of the meal because you're done, because you're like, I just am no longer interested in food. That's the right satiety cue you should get. That's when you get enough protein, just enough fat. You're going to get that like, oh my gosh, I'm so satisfied. I couldn't put another bite of anything in my mouth right now. I'm just so uninterested in food. That's how they know they've got it right. But again, a lot of them are used to just eating just barely enough that they're not going to get that turned on and they're still hungry. So ask yourself at the end of the meal, could I imagine eating more of that chicken or that steak that I just ate or that salmon? If you could, go ahead and eat more of that. That means you're still hungry. If you're like, nah, I'm tired of eating that. I just want something else. I just want a little something sweet. That's a craving. That's a habit that you have of finishing a meal with something sweet. It also can indicate typically too that you're, like, again, the first 10 episodes of this, I have a lot of rules I have people follow that get rid of all that desire to have something sweet at the end of the meal too. So that's how you can kind of guess. So that's how you can tease out whether it's a craving or whether it's true hunger. If you wake up in the morning and you want to eat a meal, that's hunger. If it's something that you're like, all your brain can think about is something sweet, like you just want something different, a different taste in your mouth, that's typically a craving, and that's cued by something else. So cravings is a whole other topic of where they come from and how to recognize the cue and all that kind of stuff that brought them on. So that's a different topic, but that's if it's not how you can recognize hunger there, then it's most likely going to be a craving. And a craving is not about meeting your nutrient needs. It's about trying to get something sugary or carby or a past habit that you've cued as well. So, all right, what do y'all think of this? What are you doing in your keto life to draw a line in the sand that you can be successful? So, you've got the lines drawn correctly. Is it you have foods that you look forward to eating? They're enjoyable. They taste good to you, but you eat when you're hungry. You stop when you're full, and your body weight is continuing to move in the direction of more healthful weight for you, and your lab markers as well. So that's one of the things I work with my clients on as well, is not just their weight and their measurements, but also we're looking at their lab markers to see how healthy they are on the inside as well. So Robin's asking what to drink. I hate water, but stuff called Crystal Light, etc., has aspartame and sucralose. Water actually makes my mouth dry. So Robin, go back and listen to my episode on salt. So if water makes your mouth dry, it's because you're actually dehydrated. So with water without the right amount of salt is what causes dehydration, or just lack of both of them in general. So my salt one was episode, where's my salt one? Episode 4 is where I talk all about salt. And so if you're doing keto and you're not supplementing with salt, again, talk to your qualified healthcare professional, somebody who's trained in this, like I am. So if you like Crystal Light and things like that, I'm going to guess you're probably somebody who's always drinking sweet beverages, and it takes time to wean yourself off of that. And so your taste buds right now are just hypersensitive to sweet, and that's all that tastes good to you. And so I challenge you, if you go 30 days without any sweeteners at all, there will be a whole different story. And again, if you're trying to drink water all by itself, if it's making your mouth dry, that typically means you're not getting enough salt in your keto diet. And that's probably what's going on. So sugar is nothing that moisturizes your mouth. Or sweetness. And it's just a taste preference. So right now, when we're constantly getting sweet, our taste buds on our tongue create more sweet receptors. And so that's why to you, like, one thing, water doesn't taste good, but sweet stuff does, is because your tongue is geared up toward sweet stuff. And when you abstain from anything sweet at all for at least 30 days, your taste buds will actually reorganize and you'll have less sweet receptors and you won't like sweet stuff as much. So that's a superpower. Like, that's a super, super tip right there for everybody. If you want to not crave sweet and you want to not prefer sweet, if you'd like to prefer savory things and just be done with sweet, 30-day vacation from all sweet things is a superpower trick. Super power up. What's the video game term where you power up? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm not a video game person. Can you tell? All right. And where's my outline here? So, all right. So up on next week's episode. Actually, next week we have 2 episodes. So midweek, I have a very, very, very special guest, and he wasn't available on my normal day. So let me look at the day and the time so I can get that right for you all. It is going to be on Tuesday, November 16th, 2021 at, let's see, it's going to be at 11 a.m. Pacific, noon Mountain, 1 Central, 2 Eastern. And actually, he's not a doctor. He's R.D. Dykman. He has a PhD. He's not a doctor. R.D. Dykman of the Diabetes Solution movie. He's agreed to come on. Very special episode, and very, very excited. I've actually done an interview with him many years ago, and his story with his son who has type 1 diabetes is absolutely remarkable. And so excited to have him on again. It's been a while, but we're going to do a special live broadcast on, again, November 16th. Special episode. We'll still have the normal Thursday one next week as well. And who's that going to be? Actually, I've got a couple of Nutrition Therapy Association co-hosts coming on our Thursday episode next week. But again, special midweek, Tuesday, November 16th. Sorry, I think I said the date wrong. November 16th, 2021. Comment here if you want me to send you more information about that one, but would love to have you join us for that as well. And all right, Valerie's sharing how she's drawn her lines. I'm drawing my lines by having my absolute favorite whole real foods on hand. if I'm building my meals using the whole keto foods I love the most, I feel very satisfied. Yes, absolutely. Treat yourself to all your favorite indulgent keto foods. I know that's another thing that women tend to do as well, is that we try to skimp on, well, I don't want to spend a lot of money on myself. And so go forth and, if you love filet mignon and salmon and, herb butter and the most decadent cheeses, like, treat yourself to all of that. There's no reason why this should be boring or untasty. And make sure you have nourishing foods, because like Valerie said, when you do have that, when you sit down to that meal and you do that properly and you're getting adequate protein and fat, there's actually no other level of satiety like that, right? Because compare that to back when you're in your carby craving mode. There's no amount of carbs that will ever satisfy you, right? You know that feeling of like you just want to keep putting stuff in your face until you get that satiety, and it never comes. The perfectly formulated keto meal of your favorite foods, that the satiety that comes from that is like nothing else you'll ever experience, and it truly is true satisfaction. So, all right. Well, that wraps up today's episode, which is drawing lines in the sand, how to eat so that you can learn to trust your appetite and ditch those old garbage dieting mentality rules that we have. Thank you all for being here today. Thanks for your support. Come back again next week. Actually, come back on Tuesday and Thursday next week. 2 episodes for you. And remember, sharing is caring. Share this episode, share this podcast with a friend. And remember, help us grow the show and we'll help you shrink. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We'll see you next time. Bye.